fight fans from all over the world. Thank you for tuning in to the War Room. We are back to talk Olympics. We got a little bit of our own Olympic coverage here today, and I'm here with my fight family, Malissa Smith. She is a women's boxing historian, and my boy, Mr. Eddie Goldman. We call him the conscious of combat sports. You guys, I missed the Olympic boxing because I was traveling yesterday. Because I don't get to see a lot of boxing over the weekend, so I have to catch up. Like I watched a few bouts, but of the pro, like Joyce and Chisora. Oh my lord, that was a slugfest. But anyway, let's. Who wants to kick it off? Eddie, you want to kick it off a bit? Did you watch any of the Olympic boxing?
Yeah,
Who
I've
wants to?
been watching a few bouts. In the U.S., you can see the whole thing on Peacock, but
Oh yeah, I
there
love
there
Peacock.
problem there are problems the way it's organized because it'll be in like roughly 2 hour blocks, and Peacock won't list who was fighting, and they'll list the general weight classes on there, and sometimes that's inaccurate because of the time. So you got to scroll through. If you're watching a replay, you got to scroll through it if you're looking for a particular bout. And sometimes it takes a little while to do that. So there's been, some upsets, some good things, and some controversy, which isn't surprising because this boxing is organized directly by the IOC. You don't have an international federation because of the corrupt and Russian-led IBAs we've been talking about forever was tossed out of the Olympic movement. So they just sort of putting this together, and there are some shortcomings in the way that they're doing it. Because, for example, some weight classes start with a round of 32, and they don't have there really isn't accurate seeding. So if you lose once by split decision, say, you're out of the Olympics. You could lose to the future gold medalist by 3-2, and you're out. You don't have a chance to fight back for another medal or come back or anything. In other sports, like, for example, in wrestling, when something like that happens, if the person that beats you in that early round goes on to win the gold medal, and I'm not sure the exact rule on it, you get brought back into the competition. But they don't have anything like that. So there's also only 7 men's weight classes and 6 women's weight classes. And that's because they want gender parity, but the total number of boxers is less in this Olympics than it's been in recent Olympics because they just basically said, look, get your act together. If there were an international federation like World Boxing running this, they could lobby to get more boxers on the program because they're in the men's division. There are just some really big gaps in the weights, and you also don't have, because you don't have an international federation running it. You don't really have the publicity that federation would put out about it to let you know who's fighting. So if you're savvy enough and you look through a whole bunch of websites, there have been some pretty informative articles about this, but you got to go search for all of those. I have not been able to find, for example, an Olympic boxing media guide. There should be something like that in one place that would list who are the entrants, and with, it doesn't have to be printed. With the internet today, where there are changes that go on, people drop out, or there was one person was suspended for doping. Here and there are little tinkering on the edges. You could keep it 100% up to date and get an idea of who some of these people are and what their credentials are and how they qualified to get into the Olympics. So that makes it difficult to follow unless you're a aficionado of this. Now, since it's an Olympic event, from what I've been gathering, the stands have been pretty full because there are people when they want to go to the Olympics, they'll go watch a sport they never heard of or know nothing about, but it's the Olympics, and that adds that glory and that prestige to it, which is one reason that we really need the Olympics and to fight them when they screw up, which is a lot of different times. So a lot is hanging on this, on world boxing, as they've been getting more and more members, particularly later in August when the Asian Boxing Confederation votes on whether they're going to join world boxing. That could be a real turning point. So those have been some of the problems. Now, we're recording on Sunday, and you may have read a lot of controversy in the scoring that went on between Rosie Eccles of Team GB was going up against Anata Rygielska of Poland, and this is a round of 32 women's welterweight bout. And you could watch that. You got to, again, search for it if you're going to use Peacock. It's at the very end of one of the 2-hour telecasts and not one of the ones that's listed as being women's welterweight. So you got to look for a lot of that stuff. And Eccles lost 3-2, very surprisingly. And there were boos in the crowd, which is mainly French, for the British fighter losing. And this is a pretty bad decision. You could watch it. Eccles was the aggressor. Most of the fight, landed the cleaner punches. Rygielska was running around all over the ring. She did land some counter shots. It wasn't just a total blowout. And some of the British articles on this may have been overblown a little bit. This was not in the category of the Roy Jones robbery in 1988 or even the Mick Conlon robbery in 2016 against Nikitin that really led to a lot of shakeup in amateur and Olympic boxing. But it was pretty bad. And the judges were all over the place on this. Two of the judges scored it even, but they gave it to Rygielska, even though she had had a point deducted for holding, which she was doing a lot. There's a lot of holding in these amateur bouts. And the judges and referees were patched together by the IOC from the existing amateur judges and referees, which means some of the ones from the corrupt IBA era were just brought over to the Olympics. And you need, again, world boxing has to really retrain a lot of these people, develop new judges, and judges where there isn't any culture of cheating and favoritism that's gone on. So if you read the articles about this, I will generally agree that Rosie Eccles won that fight, and now she loses unjustly 3-2 in the round of 32, and she's gone. She worked years to get in the Olympics, won and done. And there was just some other bad calls. I only saw a couple of matches. But wow. For example, there was the match of Nikat Zareen of India against Maxi Kleutzer of Germany. And there was at one point where they clinched, and Nikat was standing in back of Kleutzer, and the referee called stop because they were clinching, and Nikat hit her in the back of the head, and the referee deducted a point from Kleutzer because he said she didn't keep her head up. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. There was another fight that I saw, Roscoe Hill of the United States against Ahmed Safa, a lightweight round of 32 fight. He's of the a refugee team. He had fled Iran. And the first round, Hill was just running, had his hands down. Ullman was the one who was the aggressor, and all five judges gave it to Hill. He seemed to barely land punches. And I don't know what basis his scoring on, but he was clearly the aggressor, but it was a gift first round. And Hill won the fight. I could see him winning the fight, but the scoring has just been pretty bad in a lot of these fights, and it
Let,
just
let,
reminds me.
let me ask you a question, Eddie. So the judges, do they ever like give what criteria they're judging on? Do they give that to the fighters before the fight? Do they say we're gonna,
Supposedly there's a whole the amateur scoring is somewhat different than the pro scoring, and you have
because
five
it's on
judges.
points, right? It's on points, right?
It's on points, but you have
It's a
five
10-point
judges,
must.
10-point must.
Okay.
You have five judges in each round, and you add all the stuff up. But if the judges don't know what the hell they're doing or they're corrupt,
Right.
you could have a million judges. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's some of the stuff that's been happening. And I don't know if Melissa's going to talk about Zahira Gonzalez fight, which was considered an upset. The American winning that fight over Estelle Mosley, who had turned pro and I think was still undefeated as a pro, had been a 2016 Olympic gold medalist in the Rio Olympics, and is also very active with the Russian-led IBA. And she went back to Olympic boxing, even though she's been a pro for several years, something that I think there really should be limits on these pros, bringing back people that have, what does she have, like 11 to 12 pro fights, and they're going to have Jalalov in the men's super heavyweight, who has, I think, is 14-0. I just don't see if they're going to bring, if somebody has maybe a couple of pro fights, there should be a limit on it. But if somebody's won a belt and they have all these fights, I just don't think it makes any sense.
I
I
think it's
know.
dangerous personally.
It is.
I mean, when this first came down in 2016, WBC had said if there's a ranked fighter who participates, they would be suspended. But I don't really know whether they're planning on doing that or not. In the women's game, there's Estelle Mosley and Beatriz Ferreira, the Brazilian fighter who has been getting a lot of buzz in terms of her pro career. She's now stepped back and she's on the team for Brazil. She got a bye for the round of 32. So her first fight will be tomorrow against Jawara Gonzalez, so her round of 32 was against one pro, Estelle Mosley, and her round of 16 is going to be against Beatrix Ferreira. So
It was an
that's
IBF
crazy.
title, right? Doesn't Ferreira?
Yeah, I mean,
I think Ferreira, I think it's pronounced.
yeah, Ferreira. And the thing about Ferreira, no, she and Jahara Gonzalez and Ferreira met at the Pan Am Games in 23. Gonzalez lost that fight, so this is a rematch for them. But then, but in her history, Gonzalez has done well on rematches. She actually fought Michaela Mayer, had one loss, and then won in the other fight in 2015 in the run up to trying to capture a berth for the 2016 Olympics. So this is a really tough fighter who's been around and been a USA national champion for a long time and has a lot of international experience. So if any fighter who can take on two pros and put them where they belong, it'll be her. But it's definitely a disadvantage for her because you're still fighting. You're fighting as an amateur, not as a pro, and it's a different game. So we'll see how things go tomorrow for her. my hope is that she kicks her butt, because I don't think pros belong in the Olympics. And look, I don't think pro tennis players belong in the Olympics, but here's the deal. It doesn't kill them. Tennis is tennis, basketball is basketball.
Right.
But when you're
Very
talking
true.
about boxing,
Right.
I'm sorry, boxers get really hurt and they can die in the ring. And when you're talking about a pro who has a different style of fighting, much more aggressive, much different style, it can be very, very dangerous indeed. And I don't care whether it's at a lightweight or a flyweight, or in the case of a light heavyweight. Oh my God, are you kidding me? You're going to have a pro fight kids, amateur kids? I just don't feel that that's right.
And it's money, because there are some countries, for example, like Jalalov is representing Uzbekistan. That's one of these countries with a long history of corruption in their amateur boxing program. Gafir Rakhimov, who the U.S. government has said is one of the biggest drug dealers in Asia. He's still openly a vice president of the boxing federation there. In fact, Mauricio Suleiman had a Gafir Rakhimov day. It's just really disgraceful kind of activity. And if he wins another gold medal, he's going to be a big hero there, and he'll get like all sorts of compensation for that. Plus, the Russian-led IBA is going to give out some of their Gazprom money they said, to Olympic medalists, which is one of the incentives, because, Estelle Mosley had some minor belt in pro boxing, but I can't see her really having earned much money in professional boxing. So they go there and maybe they figure they're going to get some more money for this. I think that's the motivator for this. But again, you're going to have young amateurs against people at this level. It really depends, as you said, on the sport, because I think with a well-defined, now a lot of these Olympic sports don't have a separate, thriving, well-defined professional level, separate from the Olympic and amateur level. Wrestling and judo are two examples of that, and I think you could name a number of others. But some others, they go back and forth, and a lot of the top people are the same people. So it might, I think it varies from sport to sport. But I, as you said, I just think it's dangerous and not right for them to be doing it.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Ferrer, she won the IBF World Light title in April. What the heck is she doing in the Olympics in August? In July. I don't get it. Now, her amateur career, she fought. She won her belt, and then she proceeded to start fighting back in the amateurs in May, a month later, to capture the opportunity to fight. So she's had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 amateur fights since winning her IBF title by TKO. So, I mean, I just don't think it's right. I really don't. Now,
I'd like to know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just was going to say one more thing. When she defeated Jawara Gonzalez, it was by split decision, in Chile, at the Pan Am Games. So, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. So, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it seems so mismatched to pair up like LeBron James against the Serbian basketball team. I mean, LeBron James and Steph Curry, and I'm like, what? So why did they even change that rule?
Money.
Why did they even money?
Well, first of all, the U.S. likes that, because it's more gold medals for the U.S. and they could have people,
Oh,
they could sell Olympic merchandise and have people chanting. And if they had a bunch of college kids playing, it would be one thing. But now that they have who's on this
right.
team, LeBron James and these big stars, that's going to
Yeah,
be prime time on NBC live.
exactly. And then all the
Wow.
advertising money to pay
Marketing.
for it.
Yeah.
It's all
Right.
money, right? And
Money.
he gets to be the captain of the team, really? He
Right.
gets to he marches out and carries the flag. Is that the athlete that in an amateur event, is that the
Right.
athlete you should have carrying the flag? And that's the honor you're going to give to LeBron freaking James? What about, a paraglider? What about a boxer? What about
Yeah. Right.
what about Simone Biles? If I was going to have a
Right.
woman carrying the flag, let her do it. The
Exactly.
greatest, gymnast of all time who has remained in the amateurs. I don't know.
She's amazing. I watched
Ugh,
her today.
I
I
watched
did
her
watch
today.
her. Yeah.
That's what I watched today. Watched her do a triple
Th-
double
Those,
in the
right. And
air
I saw that her
on the
ankle was
floor.
bandaged up and she was
Yeah.
doing those power flips and turns. And I said, and she
I
looked
never
like she
saw
was in
a
pain.
beam routine
Yeah.
uh, with more confidence in my entire life. And
Right.
I have watched a lot of Olympics. I'm old. I've watched a lot of
No,
gymnastics. I watched Nadia Comaneci get her
it's
tens.
team,
But
yes, team AARP over here.
exactly. I'm old and I've seen it all.
Oh shit.
By
Oh
the way,
my
you mentioned
goodness.
Nadia Comaneci. She was
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
Olympians that was featured on one of the boats on the opening ceremony.
And she
And
carried the torch, right?
yes, I
She
like the
carried it.
way that they did it
All
at the
right.
I
end,
did too.
where instead of having just one person do that last lap, they had a whole bunch of different athletes, including
Yep.
sitting in a wheelchair. That 100-year-old gentleman
Yep.
gave it to, and also just shows the importance. Two of the people in that last group were the French athletes were from judo, and one of the two that
Oh, I
lit them
know
was
this.
Teddy Riner, who I think has 3 Olympic gold medals, and he's lost a little bit in recent years. So now he's in his home country. He was one of the last two that lit that. I don't think it was really a cauldron. It sort of was it looked like a cauldron. And I also got to say one other thing. This controversy from
Oh,
the MAGA people about the
yeah, right.
the
The Last
Last
Supper.
Supper thing. These
Oh, I missed
idiots
that. What
again.
happened?
Oh God.
What they did was
Right.
they did a parody of some of the French paintings in the Louvre and certain things from history. And they did one where they had like a long table and there were people that they said were some drag queens sitting there and a lot of people just sort of dressed up very festively. So the MAGA people said, oh, this is attacking Christianity. This is mocking the Last Supper picture by the painting by Da Vinci, who I believe was gay anyway. But the fact is, if on Twitter, the Olympics official site showed that scene and showed what it was sort of an modern interpretation of was the Feast of Dionysus, which is a ancient Greek festival long
Yes,
before there ever was
exactly.
Christianity. You didn't have to do a whole lot of research and digging. They put it on Twitter. They
Oh my
said what it
gosh.
is, but nonetheless,
Oh,
the
they're
the
yeah.
MAGA people and all these others and the religious fanatics, the Christian nationalists, they all went crazy. Now, there's a lot of things you could criticize of that opening ceremony. It was too long. They gambled and lost. It was held in the rain. They should have focused more on the athletes who you'd see for a second, all together on the boat. There were things that could be criticized. That's not one of them.
No, no, that I mean that was yeah, and there's like and then you had like this weird whole stuff all over social media, like Oklahoma objects.
And the MAGA people that
Oh, my
started this
God.
lied, because you could find it's out. They said it on Twitter what it was about. They just lied about it. All these people can do is lie.
It's unbelievable. So, just the stupidity is extraordinary, and then provokes a lot of interesting conversation. I'm like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you get rid of education.
Right. I saw some
People
of that.
can't tell the difference. They
Saw
don't know
some of
what
that
Greeks
trending.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And when
And
people
they
don't know
don't
how to
read.
check, they don't know how to check facts, which is
Exactly.
not just something of the MAGA people. I see this all the time on Twitter. People post stuff without any source. And sometimes people in the comments say, "What's your source?" And the person will get indignant and not give you the source. If you got a source, put it right at the beginning so we know where it's from. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, look, let's chit chat a little bit about professional boxing, but not the professional boxing that's happening at the amateur boxing in Olympics in Paris. Let's
Yeah.
talk about real professional boxing.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
let's just chit chat. Did anybody get to see Shadeja's fight? I saw Shadeja's fight.
Last week. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the Amanda Serrano card.
Yes. Yes. I watched a couple
Yes.
of the fights on that card.
Yeah, I did. I mean, she won, and I'm glad she
Right.
won because she needed to come back
She
into the
needed that.
ring after losing to Franchon Cruz. In my humble opinion, and I love Shay Green. I think she's terrific. We've had her on our show. We really support her. But if she really wants to get moving in boxing, I think she needs to really rethink how she approaches her fights. She was slow. She was winded. She's like fights in spurts. And again, I'm glad she got the win, but she should have won that fight much more decisively than she did. And if she wants to really make a statement at that weight and have the opportunity to fight at Clarissa Shields or go up or down, between 160 and 168, or even jump up to 174 now that, and we'll talk about this, but now that Clarissa Shields is sort of making a play at heavyweight, she'll get slaughtered.
Yeah.
She is not going to be able to compete at that level. And it's the shame because she's a really good fighter. And, we had, I'm hoping she really rethinks how she's training and who's training her and what they're focusing on, and getting back to some fundamentals so that she can really put on a better show, so that she can prove enough to really push for bigger opportunities in sport.
Right. She seemed so gassed. You're right. She seemed out of shape, even though I thought like some of her punches were looking sharper from her last performance. But yeah, you're right. She needs tip top conditioning, because both of them actually seemed like they were gassed.
Yeah.
And it was only 8 rounds, 8 2-minute rounds.
Yeah. So, she needs
Come
to.
on now.
Come on now. We love you, Shay.
Come on now.
Yeah, we love Shay. And look,
right.
There's a lot of collapse in that division. Women age out in the sense of, they do their thing, they compete. And so there's real opportunity to be sharp and to make a statement. To take a look at who's around and coming into those weight categories, or really rethink it and say, well, do I need to pivot somewhere else and really think through what, in terms of one's own body, whether it's possible to go down in weight, or if you're going to go up in weight, what that's going to look like. But it also affects stamina in the ring. And, stamina is an important part of boxing.
No, I think she could lean out. She could lean out easy. She
can lean out very easy.
She can lean out a little bit. That's all.
Then we don't know, what was going on as she came into the fight. We don't know what her camp was like, what
She said she
her,
had a full camp, like a full 8-week camp.
and maybe, maybe she
Everybody
left it all
says
in
that.
camp. We don't know. We don't know what her weight was like, what that
That's
fight for,
true.
even to get to 168. She's walks around as a big person. So we
Right,
don't know
right.
what that was about.
Yeah.
And
And
Amanda
they
Serrano,
generally don't
yeah,
tell you if they've had
no,
injuries.
no,
No,
right,
that's true.
exactly. Or
They try to keep
other,
that under wraps.
yeah, or personal things. We don't know what her situation was coming into that. So, and
You
then
could-
Serrano, she, I'm glad she got the KO. It brings it to 31. If she gets a 32nd one, she ties Christy Martin for the most knockouts in the women's side of the game.
That's impressive.
But I'm glad she got it's good for her. But was that a competitive bout? No, to me,
Another mismatch.
it
Yes,
was.
Damn. What's up with that? What's up with these matchmakers and these mismatch fights?
it's Jake Paul's company
Oh my
showcase.
goodness.
Showcasing her real fights, and whenever they're going to fight in November. This is keep busy. I really want to be able to have 32 knockouts, or I want to get to 33 knockouts. That's our next goal, so
Oh,
she
I
found
see.
somebody
Yeah.
she could knock out. But
Right.
I didn't. Look, I like Amanda. I think she's got things going on for the sport that are important. What she did for Heather was important, but
She's cruising
girl,
now.
you're cruising, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
don't expect that people still see you. On the other
Right.
hand, look, she's got a lot of time. She's got a lot of rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of rounds in the sport, and it's like, okay, where
And
are you
she's in
going
her
with this
30s,
girl?
right? She's in her 30s, right?
Well, low 30s.
Right.
Can't. I'll tell you in a minute, but I'll
Hey,
look it up
Google.
for you. I'll look it up. It's the joy.
Okay.
But
She's
she's not
35. Wow.
35. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
35. So 35, and again, she's got a lot of fights in the pros. She doesn't have as many rounds in the amateurs, but the amateurs are different, So, but as a pro, where is she now? She's 47, 2-1.
Wow.
That's a
She
lot
had
of
50 fights.
rounds.
Yeah, 50 fights.
Pro fights. In the
Pro
amateurs,
fights.
she says too. I mean, there've been a few more than that because she was in Golden Gloves and things, but that's a lot of fights. That's a lot
Right.
of rounds. That's a lot of punishment.
And right,
So
people do not understand that as a fighter gets older, the punishment, because punches are blunt force trauma.
Yes,
There's a video. Yeah, there's a video of AJ training and sparring camp with this dude that's bigger than him, right? And they're standing in the toe to toe position. You know the phone booth exercise where the dudes stand there and they
yeah,
counter each
yeah, yeah,
other.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
they're not doing that. They're just standing there and the guy is just wailing on
I
AJ.
know.
And
I
he's
know.
blocking body shots and he's putting his hands up and he's not moving. He's just standing there like a damn heavy bag. So, I made a comment. And then all these ignorant people came up and called me all kind of names. They tried to drag me down the road. But I'm like, you do not understand. He has been in the fight game over 10 years. Do you think he really need to practice how to take a damn punch or be taking this type of blunt force trauma when he's on his way out the door and he should be preserving his body? Come on
Well, that's
now.
the thing with Serrano. She spars really hard. And that's a lot of hits to the
A lot
head.
of punishment. Right.
And she goes up and down in weight a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So hydration becomes an issue with brain health. So
Taxes
she's
the
had
body.
50 pro fights. That's a lot of punishment. So
Yeah.
I can understand on the one hand is like, well, yeah, I need to keep busy. So why should I fight somebody who's going to maybe beat me? I get it. It's a keep busy fight, but on the other hand,
Right. Like Canelo, keep busy fight.
don't expect that, that you're going to get suddenly, oh, you won. We're going to rank you higher. It can happen like that.
Right. Right.
So look,
It's
I
crazy.
have a lot of respect for Serrano, for what she's doing for the sport, for what she's trying to do.
Absolutely.
For some of the work she's done for sisters in the sport, in the ring and out of the ring. What she did for Heather was special, but you also got to worry about where she is at the age of 35, having had 50 pro fights. That's 50 fights without headgear, and she has fought
Right,
some
exactly.
serious women, you know, she has fought
And
some
taking
serious
a
fights.
pounding. Taking a pounding. She
Yeah,
has
they take a
taken
And
a
lot of
pounding.
now,
pounding.
supposedly in November, she'll fight Katie Taylor. But this date that she fought Morgan was originally supposed to be that rematch,
Exactly.
but Tyson couldn't make the fight against Jake Paul, which is the big seller. So instead of being on Netflix worldwide, it was on DAZN, and you had Jake Paul fighting some MMA guy again.
And that was
And
pathetic.
so just keep her busy. But you know, is this fight with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson actually going to happen? I mean,
I
to
hope not.
me, it's going to be. It has all the makings of a total disaster. But that's assuming it even takes place. This also shows Netflix wants to get into live events and sports, and this is their entree into boxing. Jake
Yeah.
Paul and a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. I mean, come on, it's
Yeah, I know.
just absurd.
It is.
It
So,
is ridiculous.
we got that fight coming up, and yeah. I mean, there were some other fights, in Britain. Mostly, look, most of the fighting occurs in Great Britain in terms of
Yeah, did you
both.
see Cameron and Mechaled?
I did. I mean, that was actually Mekala did a lot better than anyone thought she would.
Oh,
Um,
right.
that's for
But
sure.
much smaller than Cameron.
Much smaller than I mean, look, her last fight. I mean, she fought Baumgartner, right? That's who she fought to get her undisputed at 129. I mean, at junior lightweight. So that was a big jump for Mekhalid, but Mekhalid really held her own, even though she's a small girl. She really likes to fight. She's fought Pursoon. I mean, so she's had some good competition. So she's not just a punching bag. She really does have some skills. And she showed a lot when she fought Baumgartner, even though Baumgartner won that fight and clearly won that fight. But yeah, Mekhalid is good. I mean, Cameron is angry about not getting the rematch with Taylor. So she's, plowing forward for whatever she can plow forward for. And wants to be poised for bigger and better things. I know that Michaela Mayer and Natasha Jonas really have wanted to do a rematch. They haven't been able to make it work, and that's shameful.
That
That's
is a
not
shame.
them.
Sit down and
That's
make
their
that fight happen.
promoters. I mean, that's the
Right.
problem right now. You get these great fighters sitting on the shelf because these assholes can't figure out how to make a damn fight. And Ebony Bridges, who I happen to like a lot, she has worked her ass off to have a brand, to be able to fight in quality fights. And she lost to okay, she's trying to get back in. She's doing all of this work to do that and just cannot get the traction. Meanwhile, money she does have, she's using to, sorry, I got the hiccups, guys. Anyway, she's doing to support other women in the sport, giving them money to help them be able to train and so on. And she's just sitting there waiting and waiting. And sort of like, hi, hello, I'm here. And at one point, somebody had said to her something like, hey, girl, just go get something to eat. It's okay. Because she's talking about how you got to maintain weight,
Right.
So it's like, yeah, okay, I'll have an ice cream.
Right. Have a cheat day. Right.
It's sad. It's terrible.
The only place they think they can get money is from Saudi Arabia, and our boy Turkey, who I'll talk about a little later with some of the crap he's been up to. He said we're going to have a women's fight in Riyadh in October. So far, nothing's been even hinted at, let alone announced.
Yeah, so
I don't
that'll
won't
be
believe
nice.
it till I
How
see
nice. One fight. Okay, groovy. Maybe Clarissa, on the strength of what she's just done, will be able to push that envelope with a match at a heavyweight.
Trying. She's trying.
It's Saudi Arabia, but I'm sorry that
yeah, we'll talk about that when it happens, Eddie. Okay.
Yeah, well, who's Clarissa gonna? Let's get into that, because
who's she gonna fight? Lanny Daniels.
Fight?
Lanny Daniels. That's about it. She's got a heavyweight belt. That's about it.
This was. I guess you could call it a mismatch, even though it was LePage Jones held the belts, but these were just two completely different levels of fighters in there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, look, we had talked about how this was, on the one hand, really good for Clarissa because she didn't have to really do much to make weight. This is near her working around weight. All she needs to do is get in the gym and boom, you're at.
She got a knockout.
Right. And she got her knockout in the second round. I mean, she pasted the girl in the second round, pasted her in the first. So that was great for Clarissa. She really has been wanting a knockout. People, give her all such shit for it because doesn't get a lot of knockouts. Well, at a heavyweight, she said, I'm feeling strong, stronger than I realized. And it's something she worked on a lot to kind of slow down the game a little bit so she could sit on her punches more and be able to really create the situation for the knockout. And good for her that she got it. I mean, after her second knockdown, the coaches from the other corner were standing on the apron ready to throw in the towel. Then she just got
everybody saw, but the referee.
Exactly.
It's like the WWE, the bad guys doing something and cheating, and everybody sees it, but the referee.
Yeah, so he's standing there, and then she goes down a third time, and it was really more of a push down than a punch. But, it was sort of like shadow with the right, and it was kind of really more of a push down. And then it's like, okay, we're done. And it wasn't even a full 2 rounds, so okay.
Yeah. Was that a 2-minute round? They fought 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2-minute rounds. Yeah, I mean,
but the whole fight took about 4 minutes.
The whole fight was 4 minutes. It was under the second
3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2.5. It was the first round, and it was, there was some time
a minute
left
something in the second round.
In the second round. So
those 3 minutes. And the Michigan governance has to be mentioned, because you mentioned how the corner was up there trying to stop the fight, and the referee didn't see it. How boxing still is in the 1930s or something, that there's no way to signal the referee. You don't want to have him throw a towel in the ring, because a long time ago they used to allow that, and somebody from the crowd can throw a towel in, and then the fight will be stopped, and unjustly. And you don't want the trainer entering the ring during the fight, because then it becomes a disqualification. So they have to figure out some other way of doing it. They're really supposed to have the inspectors get up on the
Right.
ring, and the
Exactly.
inspector can get it in the ring and notify the referee. But this is Michigan. In fact, they even screwed up the first knockdown. If you were watching carefully, Shields knocked her down, and the referee signaled Shields to go to the neutral corner, but she went to the closest neutral corner, which is pretty near where her opponent was
Our opponent was, yeah.
down and being counted, instead of going to the furthest neutral corner. The referee signaled her to go to the wrong corner and allowed her to stay there. That's on the referee. So even in this fight, which was a blowout, you have this, this level of incompetence in the governance of this fight again. Welcome to
Yeah,
Michigan. She has to
Michigan is right.
she has to get out of there. I think she wants maybe one more fight there, and Mark Taffet is telling her she's going to go to the T-Mobile Arena and all that. Who's she going to fight in the T-Mobile Arena?
I have no clue. And as she said, at the end of the fight, when somebody asked her, well, you're going to stay at heavyweight? She's like, well, I don't know. We'll see. I got to talk to my team. I'll fight from like essentially 154 to heavyweight. So, we'll see what happens. The problem is the upper weights are collapsed right now. I mean, yeah, she could give Franchon a payday. Why not help out her pal? Would be certainly an active, would be a lot of bombs being thrown. I mean, does Franchon come up to heavyweight, or do they do it at 168? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Meanwhile, Marshall has all the belts. That division is collapsed right now. And then you had, on the first fight on the card yesterday, you had Danielle Perkins, who was a decent amateur. She fought at light heavyweight. It was more like I like Danielle a lot, but it's a club fight,
Yeah, it was straight up club fight.
It was straight up club fight. It opened the show. Now, Samantha, who I'm blanking on her last name right now. I'll get to it. She fought at super light, and she was good, Worthington, and she had a decent fight, and she is a decent fighter, and she's now being repped by Clarissa's new company, T-Rex Promotions, and she did a really nice job in the ring. She also got a KO in the second round. Actually, in her case, the fighter went through the second round and then just said, nah,
I'm not coming out. She quit on the stool.
I'm not coming out. But
quit on the stool.
Yeah, that was Samantha Worthington who did that fight. And she fought Adina Kiss. And now Adina Kiss has been around. She's a Hungarian fighter. She is a true dirty woman, 16 and 20. Okay.
Damn.
But she's not milquetoast. She's not a punching bag. She does her best. Okay, I mean, she's fought everybody. You look at who she's fought everybody. So, okay, she lost. Well, that's not a surprise, because she has fought everyone from, Shelley Vincent and Ronica, you name the fighter, she fought Michaela Mayer, right? She fought everybody. She goes up and down in weight. She's fought Serrano. She's fought Heather Hardy twice. You name it, she's fought them. But in this case, she fought Samantha Warrington, known as Sammy, and she's a good fighter. She's got some skills. And so in her last fight, she fought Yasmin Rivas, and did a really nice job. And kind of surprised everyone. She won by unanimous decision, but this is back in January. But did a really nice job. So she's a real deal kind of fighter. So we'll see what happens with her, in terms of where her career goes, with under this new organization that Clarissa has. Her other fighter is a guy. what is his name?
Oh, I watched his fight today.
Um,
Fahe, something like
oh,
that.
oh man, I can't find his name. Sorry.
Panek-
Not very well prepared
Panicky.
here,
I want
guys.
to
My
call him Panicky.
apologies. Yeah. Man, yeah, is it something like
Kaneki.
that? Maneki, right. He was good. You know, he was okay. He had his debut. And he was fighting a guy with was on like his 10th fight or something. And it was like his 10th fight. So that was kind of crazy. That is a debut fighter fighting a guy with 10 fights. But and it made it awkward. He did get the win, which was deserved. But that was kind of a crazy fight.
So if he fought somebody that
Oh,
already
Joaquin,
had 10
yeah,
fights,
Jacon McElroy played, and he fought Travis Floyd. Travis Floyd
okay.
again,
Oh, yeah,
one
I
in
saw
9
that fight.
fighter. Okay, but he actually had some skills. It was a little bit awkward, and this was not an easy rollover contest where
All right.
he was going to take him out in one round with a KO. I mean, this McElroy really had to work for 4 rounds to win. He finally figured it out sort of towards the end of into the third round. He started to figure out what he needed to do, and then had a really clearly won in the 4th round. So anyway, he's the other fighter that Clarissa has picked up. And the rest of the card, there was some decent fights. It wasn't terrible.
It wasn't a complete wash.
It was, there was some decent things.
There.
I also like that, Al Bernstein was calling the fight with Raul Martinez and Corey Erdman. So it was like these are good guys that generally have something reasonable to say.
Right.
And Corey Erdman is, he's like a boxing nerd. He knows everything that ever happened in the history of boxing going back to the year 1. So he's kind of fun to have around.
Yeah.
He's a sweetheart from Canada.
I'm fascinated by people who can recall sports stats off the top of their head. That is just like, wow.
He's got a great heart, Corey. So it's a nice little team. So that was nice to have them calling all the fights, at least for me, because I like Al Bernstein. I'm glad he's getting work after Showtime.
Yeah, he's staying busy. Al is staying
Al
busy.
Marquez is a really great guy. He's another one he's a real guy and he's a real deal. So it was nice to have them work the fights.
Right. Well, all right. Anything else you guys want to cover?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of things we should mention. The slugfest with Derek Chisora upsetting Joe Joyce. That was if you've seen depictions of boxing slugfests and movies and how unrealistic they were. This was kind of like that, where these two old guys were just sort of letting everything out. Joe Joyce doesn't seem to have any power left, and Derek Chisora was just laying bomb after bomb, and he late in the fight, I think it was the 9th round, he dropped Joe Joyce, won an upset unanimous decision. I think Joyce was the favorite, and they figured this might be Chisora's last fight.
Right.
Neither guy said they're going to retire, but Joe Joyce is definitely out of any title fight or any contender fight at this point. He's done. He's just too slow and doesn't have the power. And Chisora has been out of that for a long time, but people love him. The crowd was chanting for him. He's sort of like
he's entertaining.
He's sort of like become a British cult hero over there, and the crowd is saying, "Oh, Derek Chisora," and singing over and over again. So it was actually a lot of fun to watch, although the technique wasn't exactly there. And Joyce just looked so bad. I called his nickname is the Juggernaut. I'm saying that it should be changed to the Huggernaut, because he was just hugging so much in that fight.
Yeah.
The other thing, if we're done with the fights, I got to mention. Well, there's a couple events coming up next week, and again, this is something I really don't like. That there are these major professional fights right in the middle of the boxing at the Olympics. You have Olympic boxing every 4 years. So this weekend we had Joe Joyce and Derek Chisora. We had the Clarissa Shields fight that we just talked about. Why do these have to be the same opening weekend as the Olympic boxing? And next weekend you're going to have a couple of major televised cards. Probably the bigger one in LA is Terrence Crawford against Madrimov. I don't know how the attendance is going to be there, and I don't know how it's going to do on pay-per-view. I don't expect very well, but they're doing this on August 3rd, again, right in the middle of the Olympic boxing. And another card with no women fighting. Now there is a card with both men and women on it going on in the UK that's not getting a lot of attention because it's mainly a British level fights. And this is going to be a boxer card. It's going to be on Sky in the UK and Ireland and Peacock in the US. Now you're going to have Peacock showing the Olympic boxing and Peacock showing this card. The
And
main
that's with Dubois, right? Carolyn Dubois?
Yes, Carolyn Dubois is sort of the co-feature on it. And
Yeah.
she's fighting Myra Moneo. And what the significance of this fight is, with all these cockamamie belts, she's going for the WBC interim lightweight belt. So that's, it's too many belts. But that's because Katie Taylor still has the belts both at lightweight and super lightweight, and she wants to get a fight for one of the major belts, and this is a stepping stone for that. The main event, Callum Simpson against Zach Shelley, that's like a British and Commonwealth level fight at super middleweight. But a lot of attention will be given to Carolyn Dubois. She's 9-0. She really looks like the future of the division. And BoxRec even has a ranked number 1 in lightweight for women's fighters, believe it or not. And she's only about 23. So this is probably the most important fight on that card. And again, as I said, you can watch it on Sky it's not pay-per-view. In the UK and Ireland. And in the US, it'll be on Peacock, and which means also since it'll be on in the afternoon US time, they archive it and it stays up for quite a long time. They leave those fights up there. So if you don't catch it live, you can just go and watch it. And she's a fighter to watch. As we mentioned about Serrano and Taylor, and these fighters are aging.
Yep.
Carolyn Dubois, somebody could be the future of that division.
No, she is. But meanwhile, I will then, just complain and bitch and moan about the fact that she's not on the same card with her brother.
Right. That is crazy.
On September 21st at the Wembley Stadium.
They have different promoters too.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
The Boxer has been touting this card. Just
right. It's frustrating to watch.
Makes me crazy.
Gives you
the
same shit.
Different day.
Every day. That's right.
Let me also mention a couple of things about our boy Turkey.
Oh, good Lord. Gobble.
Now this guy whose his ass is being licked by the boxing media all over the place.
We're never going to get into Saudi Arabia, Eddie, ever. Never.
They're all got this big
it'd be like the Roach Motel. You check in and you don't check out. the way
Right.
they do things over there.
That's it.
But there was a series of comments on Twitter, and this is one of the reasons to stay on Twitter, is that sometimes you see things like this. And I wrote about it in an article. And he was commenting on the Jake Paul fight, and he doesn't like Jake Paul. So he wrote,
Right.
this is not boxing. Okay. But then one of the fans commented on it and said, you paid Francis Ngannou about $30 million to fight twice in boxing matches. So basically saying, how could you say that was boxing? So Turkey, our boy, says, well, it was not 30 million. Okay, whatever it was, 20 million.
Whatever it was, right.
It was
then he
still
goes,
millions. It wasn't 30,000.
right. Second thing, Francis, real fighter and do great fight, not like this circus. Francis Ngannou is a real fighter. This is boxing. This wasn't just any kind of fighting.
Right.
This wasn't, cross discipline rules. And a great fight. When did he have a great fight in boxing? Against Tyson
Never.
Fury, who is, I said looked like he did all of his training in all the pubs in Morecambe and was disinterested in it. Because he knocked down that big blimp of a guy who didn't train. That was a great fight. And then when he fought Joshua a few months later, who was in shape, he didn't last 2 rounds. He was beaten to a pulp and knocked out completely cold, flat on his back.
Okay.
So this equivalence between boxers and cage fighters is completely obliterated. It's utterly absurd what this guy is saying, because he doesn't want to criticize himself and say, okay, we made a mistake bringing this guy into boxing. Remember, the fight with Tyson Fury and Ngannou was the first of the major Riyadh season cards in October of last year. So what's the point of bringing in these MMA guys to fight boxing? It just two completely different levels, two completely different sets of techniques and experience. And to say it was a real fighter and he did a great fight, what kind of crap is he trying to pull on this? Now, the other thing that's going on with this is the guy, by the way, that wants to be or is a would-be czar of boxing or head of a new global governing body of boxing or whatever. The latest thing is he has a beef with Canelo. He wants to get Canelo to fight Crawford, which there's a real size difference there. And Crawford's such a great fighter, he might have a chance against Canelo, but it's completely disrespecting the need for weight classes. Crawford was just the 147-pound champion. He still holds some of those belts, I think, and is going up to 154 on August 3rd against Madrimov. Canelo hasn't fought that low in years. He's the 168-pound champion, and even though he has a fight that won't be that real competitive against Berlanga coming up in September 14th, it's still boxing, and he's still with PBC. So Turkey is mad at Canelo. So what he's doing on the same date, he's having Riyadh season support a UFC cage fighting brawl
Oh,
the
Lord.
same day in the same city in Las Vegas, where
Yeah.
Canelo will be fighting there and the UFC will be in the Sphere, a relatively new venue that's been opened up and having a lot of different events. And Riyadh season is sponsoring that, which means they're giving money to Dana White, and a few crumbs from that will end up for the fighters. So this guy gave an interview, and he's sort of like bragging like it's sort of the WWE or something like that, talking about why he's doing this. And he said he'd only have Canelo fight, but only for a fair price. He hasn't said that about anybody else. So he has like a whole different thing. And he started just insulting everybody. And now he's siding with the MMA and the UFC against boxing. And he even said about that event, the UFC cage fighting event being the same day as Canelo's fight, we will eat him.
What a jerk.
What
And
a
so this is
badass.
this is the guy that all these people are kissing his ass, calling his excellency, saying
Yeah.
that he
Well,
should
save boxing.
organize to
Bullshit.
save boxing and all that. He doesn't give a shit about any of this because that's why
No.
he's backing the UFC. He gives a shit about Riyadh season. And remember, don't ever forget, he's head of the General Entertainment Authority. The government gets involved in a lot of these events. This is not the Ministry of Sport getting involved with these major boxing events. They've been involved before with other events and with other sports and, of course, with amateur boxing. But it's a General Entertainment Authority. It's viewing boxing as another entertainment product that you could sometimes do, sometimes not do, depending on what they think is right for Riyadh season. So it's important to expose this guy because people are just, as I said, kissing his butt, and nobody's criticizing him because they want to get
They want
those
that
Right. They're
money.
trying to get
petrodollars.
paid. They're
They
trying to
want
get
that money,
paid.
honey.
They want to
And
get that
women
That's
are
right.
petrodollar.
being fucked.
That's
They're being
right. And
screwed.
listen, so I thought it was against their religion. I mean, to have alcohol, he's going to be serving alcohol at both of these events in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but they right.
I thought that was against their religion. And every hooker in Vegas is going to be at both those fights. And he can say whatever he wants. Canelo's fight's going to sell out because his fans love him.
Oh my God.
So,
Yeah. Yes, they do. And Las Vegas got a lot of Latinos.
yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what he's talking about. He's going to eat Canelo.
I don't think so.
Anyway, let's wrap this party
Yeah,
up.
I gotta go.
Yeah, we got to bounce to the ounce. All right, Eddie, tell the people where they can find you, baby.
Well, as I said earlier, it's still on Twitter at NHB News, doing the Patreon articles at patreon.com/Eddie Goldman, and still in New York and still here.
New York. You can make it
Yep.
there. You can make it anywhere.
That's it.
That's it. All right, Melissa. Tell the people
All
where they
right.
can find you.
Brooklyn is here. Brooklyn in the house. Let's see. I am at Girl Boxing Now, Instagram, Twitter. I'm gonna keep saying Twitter.
That's what we call it.
Twitter on Twitter. Oh, and my new book, The Promise of
right.
Women's Boxing, a momentous new era for the sweet science. And my website is girlboxing.org or Malissa, Malissa Smith.com. And I'm just doing a lot of stuff at home. So I'm not doing as much writing as I'd like to be right now.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a rough summer. Things like the laundry room is out, my air conditioner is out. My husband is like in local land. So I'm a little stressed.
You're a little stressed and stretched.
A little stressed here, people.
Yes.
But trying to make it work and get through this summer. And thank you all for tuning in and listening to us gab and gab.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to catch you around next time. Thank you for supporting independent journalists. These are the experts. I am your co-host, Fight Goddess, Chris Baldwin. You guys can find me I'm still on Instagram. I'm still on Twitter. On Instagram, I'm at Fight Goddess One, but on Twitter, you can find me at Angry Afro Radio because I spout a little of my Angry Afro rhetoric on there. So you guys give us a good follow. Uh, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can find out the next time we drop a video, which is going to be today. Actually, it's going to be tonight. All right. That's been a good show today, folks. Let's wrap it up. Peace, love, and boom, boom. Push.